All right, everyone, welcome into episode 2 of what we are for now calling Royal Radio. We reserve the right to change that title at any time, but we're going to roll with that for now. Special guest today, like I said, my name is Bill Burgess. I'm here with Coach Conaway, the Director of Athletics at the First Academy, and our new head basketball coach, Coach T, straight from Atlanta. He's here. He's been here for, a month now?
For a month. That's right.
So we're happy to have him here. We're just going to kind of go through his story, where he has come from, and his goal for our program moving forward. So, Coach, I'll jump right in. If you just want to start giving us kind of the Mabon story in 2 minutes or less.
The quick Mabon story is I'm Coach T. My real name is Tarrik Mabon, but for 39 years my name has been butchered, so I'm just going by Coach T. It's easy. My wife is Sharita Mabon. She's from Jackson, Mississippi. We met in college. I went to Morehouse College. She went to Spelman College in Atlanta. We met my sophomore year. She was a freshman. I don't know how she was dumb enough to engage me. We got married. We have 3 beautiful boys. They can't wait to come to TFA. My oldest is TJ. He's 7. My second child, who is my wild child, he's Shamar, and he's 4. And my youngest child is Emery. He's 2. We've been in Atlanta for 20 years.
Wow. That's a long time.
Long time, man.
But something new is on the horizon here at TFA.
That's right.
What's the number one thing someone needs to know about you? If you've got 30 seconds, hey, this is me in 30 seconds. What's the number one thing that you want to convey to someone quickly? Man,
I love Christ. I know who I am and whose I am. I've been baptized. I got baptized when I was 6 years old. Not perfect. Made a lot of mistakes in my life. With all that being said, I think I'm a good leader. I think so. I think I'm a good communicator. I would like to think so. But the reality is I may be one of the goofiest people on campus. So just get ready to laugh. Get ready for me to be loud when I see you. I love to laugh. I love life. And, again, I can't express just how goofy I am. Yeah. So that's the truth.
Yeah, and you can see that just in the first couple weeks you've been around. Like, that's the most evident thing that, hey, man, he's just a goofy dude. He loves to hang out, loves to coach ball, and
that's me.
We're going to do it from there.
That's it.
Talk to us a little bit. Okay, so you just finished up. You won a state championship this past year in Atlanta with Mount Vernon.
That's right.
Mount Vernon School, Mustangs. Talk to us a little bit about how that year ended and then what led you to want to become the head coach here at TFA.
It's a God thing, man. Most people who know me, they know I really struggle talking about myself because I'm just a broken man who God has fixed, still fixing, saved by grace, man. I made so many mistakes in my life. But with that being said, I was the head coach at Mount Vernon for 7 years, took over a program that had lost 14 games in a row. Fortunately, we were able to turn that around. In my first year as a head coach, we made it to the state Sweet 16, which means the second round of the state playoffs. And then I had to rebuild. It took me about 3 years to rebuild and really make the program my own. And we took it one step of the way, brick by brick. Made it to the Sweet 16 3 years ago. Made it to the Final Four 2 years ago. Learned from those 2 years. And fortunately, we were able to cut down the nets this past season. We scheduled really tough. We didn't back away from any competition. We always looked at ourselves in the mirror, the players and the coaches. And over the years, man, we learned what humility truly looks like. And we do feel that our humility is what allowed us to win because we feel that Jesus honors hard work, but he also honors humility. We did everything tough. I truly feel we did everything the right way and with the right heart. And that was the result, a state championship.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I remember just from you came and played down here in our Christmas tournament this past year. Yeah. And I remember watching your team and thinking, like, these guys are awesome. Like, they communicate very well on the court. They're intense. Your defense. I know the first game was against a tough Mainland team.
Right.
And it was obvious that y'all were not playing well. Right.
Yes,
it wasn't like Mainland. And
yeah.
Mainland, all credit to them. They
They're
played
good.
a great game, a great team. But it was like, I was like, these guys are not playing well. And
no.
you could tell by your body language on the court. It's like, hey, this is not normal. So the next night we get to play you, and we got our butts handed to us. But
we weren't happy.
Yeah,
I can tell you that.
Yeah, but that speaks to what you're talking about with the scheduling, right? Like, you come down here. Obviously, we were a decent team last year. Mainland, really good squad. Went really deep in the FGSA playoffs. How does that when you're scheduling tough, what's the balance of, hey, I want to schedule tough, but while still allowing opportunities for good growth?
Managing expectations.
Yeah.
I've had to learn how to grow my communication skills, which is something I'm sure Coach Conaway can appreciate, with them being one of the C's. But my first few years, I just felt like parents should understand, or kids should understand what I'm thinking. How dare I think that somebody understands what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
So over the last 2 or 3 years, I made it very clear, hey, parents, hey, players, we're going to play some tough games that we may lose. We may even lose by 30, but it's about having a growth mindset, keeping the glass half full. We want to learn from our mistakes. We want to grow through our mistakes. And then what started to happen is the games got easier and easier. Easier may not be the right word, but because every game was tough.
You were in every game, though.
We were in every game.
Yeah.
We got blown out once last year, and that was against one of the top 8 teams in the country, right? Yeah. Every game we played in, it went down to the wire because we kept learning how to play, kept learning how to be consistent with our toughness. That was the main thing, because what happened about 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, you know what? Forget everything else. I'm going to study every best team in Georgia. I wanted to see what the common denominator was. And I'm telling you, Bo, the common denominator was toughness.
Yeah.
They were always first to the floor. It was normal to be in a rugged jump ball. That was normal for them.
Yeah.
It was normal to take a charge. It was normal to dive on the floor. And so for our kids, we had to adjust and learn how to build a relationship with the floor.
Yeah.
And once we started to do that, it started to intimidate other teams.
Yeah.
And that became normal for us, which I'm trying to make that normal here at TFA.
So, Coach, talk about kind of the transition from Atlanta to here. I know that Coach has mentioned there was some phone calls went down. Just broadly, before he kind of gets into the weeds a little bit, what has that been like, just transitioning from a place like Atlanta to a place like Orlando? Very similar, but also very different at the same time.
Well, to be honest with you, it's been tough for me. This month has been. The good part about it has been when I'm here, right? When I'm with you guys, when I'm with my team. But I've been going home to an empty house for an entire month, and I've never done that in my life. Me and my wife, we've never moved before. In my head, when you go to college, that's not moving, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? So I was born and raised in Memphis, 901, baby. At the end of the day, I'm Memphis through and through.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows me, they know that, right? So I was in Memphis my entire life. I go to Atlanta, graduate, and I stayed there. So I was there for 20 years, right? We moved homes here and there, but that's it. But moving to an entirely different state, a new city, and doing it by myself, it's been tough because I'm a family guy. I got 3 boys, I have a beautiful wife. So having to endure this, I think after about week 1.5, I prayed about it, and what God told me was, this is like, I hate to say this, but like, how when you pledge in college, right? This is like your pledging process,
Yeah.
right? I'm having to learn the lay of the land, learning my house, driving through the city, just trying to learn things for my family, and that kind of gave me peace. And what really settled me down was when we started leaving for team camp. So going to Wofford, right? Going to North Georgia, traveling with my guys, spending a lot of time with them. That made it a little easier for me. And fortunately, my family gets here on Friday. But I'm not going to lie to you, it was tough for me, but my wife was special. She was really special during that time, staying with my boys. I think it's hard for me. I'm by myself. She's like, I'm at home with 3 kids. What do you mean? So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
When you were drawn to TFA,
Mm-hmm.
right, you had a conversation with your wife.
Yes.
And the door started to open up. Can you walk us through that process?
So this is in my opinion, this is one of my greatest testimonies in my life right now. And I also know that's why God brought me here. So I would say, like I told you, I was baptized when I was 6. I probably rededicated my life to Christ when I was 13 or 14 years old. Went to college and completely, not voluntarily, but my lifestyle was not what God wanted it to be. I moved to Atlanta and I became a party guy. I was separated from God, man. I loved God. I went to church, but I wasn't being real. So about 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago, I made a very strong decision to completely lean on Him, if that makes sense. When I mean completely, every decision I made, whether it was bills, buying a house, buying a car, if there's a kid that wanted to come to Mount Vernon, like I prayed about everything I did, if that makes sense. And that's not easy, especially here in America, but we call that kingdom living. I was like, I wanted to be the husband that God wanted me to be. I wanted to be the father that God wanted me to be. And essentially, I wanted to be the coach and teacher that God wanted me to be. And I kid you not, when I made that very tough and strong decision, that's when the director of spiritual life role opened up in Mount Vernon. I didn't look for it, didn't ask for it. It was the COVID year, and it fell in my lap. And I'm looking at God like, is this what we're doing? Like, because I decided to truly try to be in tune with you, you're just gonna start opening up opportunities like this. And I was intimidated by it. I did not want to be director of spiritual life, but it's exactly what I needed. So that happens, right? And probably 2 years later, all of a sudden, a lot of talented kids started to want to come to Mount Vernon. That hadn't happened. So now a 6'10" kid, hey, coach, man, I have a son that's 6'10" who's interested. I'm like, what? A 6'8" kid. But all of this started happening, and I'm telling you, only because I put everything to the side and said, Father, I'm just going to follow you. That's it. I became a better coach, a better communicator, a better husband, a better father. And I started to see things kind of happen. Like I told you, Sweet 16. Then the Final Four. Now, God is not a transactional God at all, but I do know that God blesses people to be a testimony, like to build his kingdom. That's all it is. It's all about being an example for him. So to circle back to what you're saying, Jeff, all of a sudden, it is 8 seconds left in Macon, Georgia state championship game, and I'm literally sitting there like, I'm about to be a freaking state champion. I've never won a state championship in my life. Had never won anything like that, like nothing at that stage. I wasn't that good in high school. My team was, but we never won anything. So I never knew what it felt like. I would go to Macon, Georgia every year to watch multiple state championship games, just wondering, what does it feel like to even just walk on the court, right? So I win. It's great. And it's not like I walked around like, yeah. I was so humble. I didn't even want to talk about it with people because it felt so good. So I'm walking in that humility. You know, people pumping me, yeah, till you did. I'm like, man, to God be the glory. My answer was always to God be the glory. This would not happen if I hadn't stepped out of the way and truly gave God the glory in everything I did. All of my players knew it was all about giving God the glory. My parents, everybody. So 3 weeks later, me and my wife, Sharita, were watching the Elite Eight, okay? And they were talking about the journey of Nate Oates, who's the head coach at Alabama. He coached at Romulus High School in Detroit, Michigan. They talked about Kevin Keats, who's the head coach, who is the head coach of North Carolina State. He coached at Hargrave Military, which is crazy because one of my kids, he's going there next year. And they talked about, of course, the two-time national champion, Danny Hurley, and how he coached out in New Jersey, right, and at a prep school. And so I was like, let me go and do my research, man. I just wanted to look at their journeys. So I'm reading their journeys. And I asked my wife, I said, baby, what would you do? I'm not making this up. God knows. What would you do if an opportunity came up that made sense, but, you know, we would have to leave, move out of town? I said, would you even consider that? My wife is a big-time attorney. She's 100,000 times smarter than I am. So that's all of our kids, they're going to get their intelligence from her.
Yeah.
I said, would you even consider? And she said, well, if it made sense, I would consider, you know, if it made sense. And I said, okay. This was completely random. I was not thinking about going to another school, let alone leave. We just bought a house a year ago. So this is just me just asking out of fun. Yeah. Conversation's over. We go back to watching the game. That was on a Sunday. 2 days later, Dr. Whitaker calls me. And no, that's not the truth. He made a comment. Okay, so let me tell the truth. I forgot. So LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
LinkedIn.com.
Yep.
I never check LinkedIn. I'm never on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I got a ping through my email that the school had made an announcement about us winning the state championship. Congratulations to the job. And they put a little nice image up there. So I'm looking at it, feeling all good.
Yeah. I'm
looking at the comments, and one of the comments said, Dr. Steve Whitaker, congrats, coach, something like that. I'm like, why? Why is he commenting on my? I'm like, that's weird. But I saw the first academy. I was like, oh, okay, but still, that's weird. Then he messaged me. Hey, coach, man, great job this season. I told our director of athletics that he should contact you. And I'm going to be honest with you. I saw that, and I ignored it. My response was, Thank you so much, man. Just glad that God saw it fit for us to be state champions. I didn't even acknowledge.
You didn't even address it.
I did not address it because I was scared.
Yeah.
I didn't want that smoke.
Yeah.
Right. He replied again, "Hey, coach, here's my cell number. Please give me a call." And I'm like, okay.
Can't ignore that.
Couldn't ignore it. So I called him, and he laid it on me. And I'm looking at the phone cross-eyed. I put the phone on speaker. I said, "Dr. Whitaker, please give me a second. I need to go and get my wife real quick." I said, "I need you to know this." And I brought it to the phone. I said, "Dr. Whitaker, 2 days ago, I asked my wife if an opportunity like this happened, would she consider?" I had no idea that anything like this would happen, right? And my wife, she's looking at me, her eyes get all big and bug-eyed, like, what? And so we're talking to each other like, "Are you serious? What's going on right now?" And he's talking to me. And he said, "If you guys want to, come down and visit, pray about it and think about it." And we got off the phone. And again, me and my wife, man, we're two God-fearing people. She know the conversation we had 2 days prior. And what God told me, and he kept telling me this during the interview process, do not ignore my signs. That's it. And I told my wife, I said, "Baby, God's telling me don't ignore the signs. Like he's this is happening for a reason. We don't know if I'm gonna get the job or not, but I mean, come on." And so we called him back probably an hour later, got everything set up. We came on a visit. We did not see one thing that would make us say no. Nothing. The kids loved it. When me and Jeff met, it was crazy, man. It was an instant attraction immediately. We realized that we grew up an hour away from each other. Same kind of background, same kind of story. It was weird in the best way. And we did the interview process and all of that. And we went back to the hotel. Me and my wife we were literally for an hour just like, is this about to happen?
Yeah.
Is this really about to be a thing? Am I going to raise my kids in Orlando? Like, all the questions.
Sure.
But that's where I was mentally and spiritually when this opportunity happened. And I honestly, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this was an ordained situation. I'm just going to let it play out. I mean, fortunately, it did.
And here we are talking on a podcast.
Talking on
2
the
months later,
podcast because this is God's testimony.
Yeah.
I could have easily won a state championship. I do work hard. I work really hard, right? I could have been. I mean, I wouldn't have been here if I wasn't a believer, right? But
Sure.
It could have been, hey, I worked really hard for this, got this opportunity, so happy to be here. But that wasn't my mindset. My mindset was I knew God blessed me with this state championship. I knew God blessed me with this opportunity. That's why I'm here, because that is my testimony to a kid who's going to be in college one day, who's going to be a professional one day, and they're going to know humility over ego. It's not you, it's God.
What was something that drew you? Yesterday we talked in our staff meeting with other coaches about our mission and just the way that we're trying to develop champions here. What were some things that drew you to the First Academy? Because you were in a good school. You were in a situation where you guys were winning games, and like you said, you had athletes coming to you because they wanted to be coached by you. What drew you to TFA?
So I loved the school I was at, Mount Vernon. I loved it, right? Director of Spiritual Life. Mount Vernon is a school grounded in Christian values, right? Which is great. TFA is a Jesus Christ-centered school. It's kind of different, It's a different type of mission. So I felt like this was a place where I could truly take my faith walk to an entirely different level. This was a place where all three of my kids can truly get the highest education, but also the highest spiritual journey at the same time. And I desperately want that for my kids in the world that we're living in today. I love everybody. I don't judge anybody, right? If that makes sense. But I feel like this is a place where the mission that God has for me is going to go to another level, if that makes sense. That was the biggest draw, honestly, for me and my wife. It wasn't the basketball, obviously, right? We did not come here to be average. We want to be the best basketball program in the country. That was my vision in Mount Vernon. I'm a big dreamer, right? The beautiful court, right? The families, the resources, the possibilities to put this thing on the map. But it's not going to happen if I'm not fulfilling my real mission. And I feel like we have the resources here for us as coaches, right? Because the cool thing about here is that every single coach, we all share the same mission in our authentic way, right? And you, Jeff, being the AD, Director of Athletics, man, like you sharing your testimony with me and me seeing how you lead, how you move, we think the same way. We're not the same person, but we think the same way. And I was really excited about partnering with you, and because this is my thing. You have so many great athletic programs around the country, right? It's great. How can we be one of the top athletic programs in the country, but one of the top truly God-fearing athletic programs in the country? That's world-changing. That's life-changing. So all of those factors involved, man, is why I'm so excited to be here.
Bo, and you have said you've only been here for a short while. What's been the biggest surprise?
My boys, my squad, right? Yes, we played against TFA last year and we won, right? So coming in, and we lost Lorenzo, we lost Juju, like some really important players, some starters, right? And so honestly, I'm a glass half full guy. But I simply didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I wasn't scared either because I know God has us. I know that, right? But, man, in a short order, 2.5 weeks, our young men are truly learning how to be dogs. I mean dogs, man. They're diving on the floor, playing fast, making the extra pass, celebrating each other. And they're out here battling every day in practice, every summer league game we've had. Honestly, that's been my biggest surprise, man. When I talk about them, I smile ear to ear. You know, I put together a little short summer highlight clip, and anybody in Georgia who knows me, who watched the highlights, said, "Coach, they're looking like dogs already." I was like, I know.
Yeah.
Because that's all I care about.
Yeah.
The skills, the shooting, they'll all come. But, man, if you get 5 dudes out there, man, that's willing to go to war every possession, that's fun to watch because truly my goal this year in season one, really every season, but especially season 1, I want the TFA community to enjoy watching us play.
Yeah.
I want to put a brand on the court that they're excited about. Man, I can't wait to go watch TFA because they're going to be all over. They're going to be loud. They're going to be barking. I love it. Like, that's what I want. I want 8-year-old kids, 5-year-old kids to be entertained when they go to a TFA basketball. I want them to feel like, man, I got to go watch Max play. I got to go watch Kel play. I got to go watch Fernando play, Jackson, Brody. Like they need to feel like they have to be there. And I think we're doing things the right way, working our way up to developing that style, that brand of basketball. So that's been my biggest surprise. I love my guys, man. I'm so grateful. They made it easier for me because they've been coachable, they've been respectful, and they've been willing to adapt and adjust. And I've been so grateful for that. And so have their parents. Their parents have been awesome.
Well, it's cool, too, because it's such a young team, right? You only have,
right.
I think, Kale and Brody are the only 2 seniors. Or is Brody might be a junior.
Kale, Brody, Jackson, and Fernando.
Yeah. So
everybody else, freshman,
Yeah.
sophomore, a couple of juniors maybe.
Yeah. So it's a pretty young team, really moldable group that you can
Yes.
really get your hands on early and teach them this style of basketball that we're going to try to play, which is really cool.
Yeah, we've been so what we do, we go in the locker room and we do our research, right? So I always try to be in tune with the team I have. Every team is my best team, if that makes sense. Every year, this is my favorite team. So we've been watching teams from the past who were small and mighty, right? Won 30 games, 20-something games, but their tallest player was 6'2", but they found a way to win. So I'm not showing them a team with a bunch of 7-footers and 6'8", because that's not our reality right now, right? So we've been watching teams and see how they can be successful by being gritty. But to my boys' credit, they've gone out to the court and they've been doing the same thing. They've been trying to do the same thing. So it's been exciting.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest challenge, opportunity in the next year for the next 365 days for CFA basketball? What is the thing that we are going to have to do in order to be the best possible brand of basketball?
Get stronger individually. Yeah. Every kid needs to get stronger. Being consistent in the weight room. Being smart about what they're eating, being intentional about what they're eating. If everybody can put on, 8 to 12 pounds a year from now, we'll be, I think, I would like to hope that we'll be we'll be a lot better. we'll be even better, if that makes sense. Especially my younger guys, like understanding the importance of being stronger. We've been in a lot of tough games, and honestly, Max, he's a rising junior, but he's strong. You can tell he lifts, and he's been able to guard guys 5 or 6 inches taller simply because he's tougher than them.
Yeah.
So if everybody can bind to that, it's a different ball game now. So I think that's our biggest opportunity of growth is the weight room.
Yeah.
What from your background, and I love this question because we grew up an hour from each other, and like you said, I can relate to who you are and the way you grew up, the area of the country where you grew up. What from your background prepared you for this TFA opportunity?
Jeff, I grew up, unfortunately, on a street where prostitution was prevalent. I grew up in a neighborhood where gang violence was prevalent. My godbrother was murdered right in front of me when I was 11 years old. I know what it's like for dinner to have to eat syrup sandwiches because that's all we had. And I'm not saying I'm it's not that, right? But it is my reality, right? My mom did a great job having mentors in my life, men who cared about me, who invested in me. But at the end of the day, growing up and seeing all of that, that's traumatic. But it taught me how to survive, taught me how to be gritty. And all of my high school teammates in my school, we all pretty much grew up the same way. And so we played like that, if that makes sense. But I was able to take the trauma, the survival mindset, and I was able to apply that in the classroom. I was able to go to Morehouse College in Atlanta and apply that to the classroom, and I was able to be a professional in the same regard. And I truly think that gave me the confidence in 2013. I quit my job. I was a financial analyst at CNN, making good money, corporate guy, but God told me I had something different for you. So on July 2nd, 2013, I quit everything. And my wife, she experienced the same type of trauma. You know, her brother was shot in the back. He's been paralyzed for over a decade, right? Just all it goes on and on. But she, because of our ability to survive through Christ, right? She trusted me to quit my job. And 11 years later, I'm doing what God called me to do. Never would have imagined that we'll be able to be in a position that we are as a family. But those things that I had to struggle through growing up is why I am who I am. I don't fear anything because I know whose I am. It's not because I'm cocky, it's because I know whose I am. And as long as I'm following Christ, you know, anything is possible.
Yeah, I mean, going around that, what parts of that do you want to instill for a TFA basketball player starting their freshman year until they walk across the stage? How do you implement those principles into their basketball experience? Not on the court, just while they're in your program for whether it be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever, all the way down to first grade, kindergarten. How do you apply those things, and kind of what's the vision for a TFA basketball player by the time they walk across the stage in May?
Transparency. They know my story. Yeah. I am not ashamed of who I am, right? I tell them I am an elite mistake maker. So they know about my mistakes. They know how I rebounded from those mistakes. I always say be response ready. When adversity strikes, be response ready. And the number one thing we talk about, and Jeff knows this, is being built on rock. Yeah. Our rock is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Matthew 7, verses 24 through 27. That's our foundation, right? From a basketball standpoint, our rock is our toughness, our unselfishness, our ability to celebrate each other, right? In life, right, our rock is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, no matter what we deal with, because we're going to deal with adversity. I've been 17 before. I've been 23 before. I've been 30 before. I've made those mistakes. I've dealt with those temptations. But because my life was built on rock, I'm able to stand 10 toes down right now with a beautiful wife, 3 beautiful kids, great job, beautiful school. That's my mission as the head of this basketball program. Our 4th graders will know what built on rock means. Our 6th graders will know what built on rock means. Our middle schoolers, our high schoolers. At the end of every practice, at the end of every game, we say, accept responsibility, reject passivity, lead courageously, expect God's greater reward. That's who I am. You know, that's why I strive to be every day. It was the same thing in Mount Vernon. I'm not bringing everything from Mount Vernon here, but that right there, being built on rock and trying to be a kingdom man, that's what it's all about. My parents should know that when the kid graduates from TFA who play basketball, they're going to be challenged and pushed to be a man of God, a man of faith, a man of integrity, right? A man of vulnerability, a man who can forgive, right? They're going to be that by the time they graduate from here, and that should translate on the court as well. Like the way we play should be a testimony to the way that we live, if that makes sense. So that's what I strive to bring to the table every day. I may not get it every day. I'm going to fail, right? But that's my intention every single day as the leader of our basketball program.
Can you give us kind of a snapshot of what we should expect to see on the court this year? Obviously, you're bringing a new style of play, a new philosophy, so to speak, but what's going to really be different, or what can you tell us we can expect on the court?
It's going to be funny, but we always say we want to play professional, if that makes sense. We want to limit our turnovers, but we want to play with extreme confidence. Coach Shaka Smart, the head coach of Marquette, when he was the head coach at VCU, he used to have this thing called ACL, which sounds scary, right, to any coach.
Yeah.
But it means aggressive, confident, and loose. We want to play aggressive, confident, and loose. We want to play fast. We're going to be loud. So let me warn our parents now and our teachers now. I'm a very loud coach in a good way. And my team, we're going to be loud too. After we make a shot, you know what we're going to do? We're going to bark like dogs because we're going to play. I know we are Royals, but we're going to play like dogs, if that makes sense. But I think it's something that's going to be exciting, something that our TFA community can get behind. I want us to play an entertaining style of basketball, a fearless style of basketball, and I hope that in time the results will be victories. So we can't promise you a win, but we can promise you that at the end of the game, you're going to know, man, those boys play hard. That's something that I can absolutely guarantee. You know why? Because if you're not going to play hard, you're going to be sitting beside me anyway.
Yeah.
It's a non-negotiable type deal for me. Right now, our biggest guy is barely 6 feet, but it's because he plays hard. He is our center right now, and I could care less. I've had a 5'8" center before because he played hard, and I mean that. Now, what happens is you mess around and have a 6'9" that plays hard. Now you winning the state championship, if that makes sense, but the standard will 100% be the standard.
Talk to us a little bit about kind of your on-campus role. What is that going to look like? What's kind of your vision, your goal for that across all of our campus to some of our families and parents who may not know?
Yeah. So director of student discipleship and culture. With that, my number one goal is to be available. I want to be available to a first grader. I want to be available to a senior, a freshman, right? Whatever it is they may be going through, I want to be available to them. Unofficially, that's pretty much what I did at Mount Vernon anyway. I'm not going to say the challenge for me was when I was at Mount Vernon was that I was also the middle school PE teacher. So there were so many times where a student reached out to me and I couldn't get there in time because I was covering
you're responsible for PE.
35 kids in the gym, right? And they would come to me in the gym, and even though we would talk about it and communicate, but I couldn't really be there in certain situations,
Sure.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So here I'm readily accessible, right? I'll be around doing chapel. I don't think I'll be running chapels, but I'll be around doing chapel. So I will be that spiritual support, that cultural support for our students. And I think I'm ready for that because I just came from a school. I was there for 10 years. I know what these kids go through.
Yeah.
I understand the challenges. I see them, male and female. I see them. I get it, right? So I hope that my life's experiences, right, my relationship with Christ, my relationship with the Word of God, I hope I can be a voice that they can listen to. Specifically for the young men, I hope I can be a man that they can trust. That makes sense, right? I think every parent, right, wants a village for their kid. I know I do.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to come a point, unfortunately, where my kids are not going to listen to me. So I may need a Bo Burgess to be able to pull them to the side and talk about something real.
Right.
Right? It cannot be cookie cutter. These kids are going through real stuff. I graduated high school in 2003. It's about to be 2025 now. Being a senior in 03 is totally different than being a senior in 2025. Right? So I keep it respectfully as real as possible. These kids need to hear real. They need to hear authentic. And I would like to think, that's who I am as a person. Right? I don't hide behind, like we attack it, right? If you attack it, that's when things can grow.
We have a great TFA family, as you can already tell. and many of them want to help. Many of them want to rally around you and support you. If someone were to ask, what is it that Coach T needs, maybe from a parent, maybe from our school employees, if you were to answer that question, what is it that you need?
I need my wife and my kids to feel the love. You know, one thing about being in Mount Vernon is that we were there for 10 years. That was their home. You know, my boys, they loved their school. The teachers loved them, and they gave me so much comfort, right? Every basketball game, I didn't have to worry about anything. They're just running around doing it. They feel seen. They feel empowered. They don't second guess anything about who they are from an identity standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint. They just run wild and they're free. I need that same energy here, and I feel very confident I will get that. My wife sacrificed everything for me. She's leaving all of her friends, her sorority sisters, her coworkers to be here with her crazy husband, right? So I need these moms, dads, kids to rally around her. That's the most important thing for me. The basketball will take care of itself, right? My job will take care of itself. I'm going to do everything I can to honor every role that I have here. But as long as my family is supported, as long as they feel loved, I'm good.
Very nice. But we've got some hot seat questions for you that we didn't prepare you for. Before we do that, I want to always plug our mission. We talked yesterday in our staff meeting of just always casting that vision and making sure that all of us as coaches, we've got a standard at TFA that we want to live up to. And we obviously are in this for our relationships with our student athletes. And so our mission is to develop champions spiritually, academically, socially, and athletically. And I believe our job as coaches is to continuously get better and more efficient and more productive in each of those four areas. And you certainly demonstrate that well, or you wouldn't be here. But now, Bo Burgess has the first hot seat question for you.
Let's do it.
What is your favorite music? Favorite artist?
My favorite, my initial reaction is Lecrae. But I will say over the last year, man, KB, he's really stepped it up for me. But I love both. And quick side note, Lecrae's spiritual mentor is my spiritual mentor.
So TFA Lecrae concert is coming soon.
Coming soon, baby. Let's do it.
Right here on the basketball court.
Oh, man, it would be crazy.
Favorite restaurant? I know you hadn't been here long, but
Greens and Grill.
Okay, yes.
It's a Wilco and staple.
That's
right.
a staple. You have to love that place.
I
if you're
do.
gonna work.
Favorite dessert?
Cheesecake.
Ooh.
Cheesecake, but I will throw out there red velvet cake and sweet potato pie.
Okay, so basketball mothers, keep that in mind.
Yes.
Please.
Favorite sports movie?
That's so tough.
There's so many.
They're literally so. There's so many for so many different reasons too.
Yeah.
I mean, just different eras and blah blah blah. Right, man. I got to go hometown with it. Blue Chips.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Penny.
That's a good
Your
one.
boy Penny.
I have to, man.
One of the things that we thought was so cool was that Penny did reach out to us when we were walking through that process with you. And I thought an email back and forth with Penny Hardaway was a cool deal. So
I got to read the email and I was good. I was like, that's sick. I'm in. Favorite scripture?
Matthew 7.
Yeah.
Verse 24 through 27. You know, that's me. You know, house built on rock versus a house being built on sand. That's what it's all about for me, you know, because I lived a life built on sand for a long time. And honestly, I was sinking and it could have been over, you know. So I'm so glad that God found enough grace for me to kind of get back on my feet and start to build a life built on rock. And here I am. Here I stand.
Here you stand.
On the rock.
And a side note, I do think it's interesting how God does this, but we talked about this before I came here. Our theme at the school that I was at all year long was BOTR, Building on the Rock. And we took all of our football players through the Sermon on the Mount, and we hung out there, and that theme was there. We talked about putting our shovel in the ground daily, and it's just unique to hear how God was preparing you, how he was preparing me, and so many others. We think that, you know, maybe it's by chance sometimes that we're here, and it really isn't.
It's not.
God has called us, he's doing something special, and we certainly can see it and feel it. I don't know if you follow NBA, college, but if you were to say, this is my team, this is who I watch, this is maybe who I study, who I cheer for, who would it be?
So I'm a diehard University of Memphis fan, without question, 100%. So I want to make that very clear. But the team that I've studied the most over the last decade has been Villanova and their head coach, Jay Wright.
Also known as the New York Knicks now.
Yeah, also known as the New York Knicks, right? I'm not going to say I idolize him because I don't idolize anybody, but if there was a coach that I would just truly like to model who I am as a coach after, it is Jay Wright, man. I've watched him for so long, bought his book, read his book, studied his film, studied his games. Hey, one of our plays is called Nova, right? So check this out, okay? Just watch how God works, man. Diehard Jay Wright fan. Got that? We go on this run. We win the state championship, right?
Yeah.
So for all of my Orlando Magic fans, right? Dennis Scott, famous
D3.
NBA legend, D3, Orlando
3D.
Magic Hall of Fame, right? I coached his son. His son played for me for the last 3 years. Dennis Scott III, right? He's committed to Georgia State. He'll be playing basketball there.
Yeah, you watched him out here playing.
Yeah, no, there was a moment where it was Dennis and Pat Williams,
Yes.
who's former GM of the Magic, grandson Max Simmons plays on our team now.
Right.
They were standing in the corner, and I was like, "This is the Orlando Magic nerd inside me was going nuts. It was awesome."
Yeah.
But anyway,
So we win.
yeah,
You know, he works for NBA TV.
yep.
He goes, T, do you think your kids want to do a tour of like the TNT, the Turner Studios? I was like, yeah. What do you mean?
I don't want to do the turn.
So we did the tour, and man, it's all good. We sit at the little desk and everything, and met people. Man, it was awesome, right? He said, "I got something special for you, T." I was like, "What?" This was going on during March Madness. He takes us to the, I guess, behind the studio, like the little office area. Jay Wright, Bruce Pearl, Seth Davis are back there. I go, I shake hands. My entire team was like, Coach Wright, Coach T loves you, man. We got to play.
They were talent on you. They couldn't play it cool.
Boom, right? He comes to me, shakes my hand, gives my son TJ a hug, and he gave me this band. It says Attitude, right? Because the name of his book was Attitude. I guess I worn it too much. You can see the V right there, but it's worn off.
Yeah.
But I said, I'm never taking this off ever again. And unfortunately, I have never taken it off since. But that was like one of my cool coaching stories. Like, I'm like, Lord, like, how?
Yeah.
Like, how do I meet Jay? It could have been Coach K. It was Jay Wright.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was just a little quick story on that.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, Coach, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate your time. I think people are going to really enjoy hearing and getting to know, because we had, obviously, the little welcome reception.
Sure.
But a lot of our families are off for the summer, so I think it'll be really cool for them to be able to hear kind of about your story and what they can expect here in the Kramer Family Fieldhouse, the Lion's Den.
The Lion's Den.
As we're now affectionately calling it.
Is what I'm talking about.
Come this November. So, Coach, you got anything you want to add?
I think this is great vacation, travel, listening material. Wouldn't you guys agree?
I couldn't agree more.
And we want to do a great job of just growing this podcast. We know by having you on here, our numbers are going to just skyrocket.
Well, before we get off, can I make one last comment, man? I just
Yes.
want to thank my wife, man, Sharita. She's my everything. We've been together since I was 19 years old. She's seen the best of me. She's seen the worst of me. She's my biggest advocate, my biggest supporter. God truly uses her. So I just want to make sure she hears me say how much I love her and how thankful I am. So y'all please do me a solid and let me get those
Absolutely.
get those
done.
points.
Can't wait
Absolutely.
till she's here and the boys are here.
That's right.
I know they're excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
All right.